But we still have a few people coming in. This is really great. I love this energy. But as folks come in, I want to welcome everyone into the space. My name is Dee Nichols. I am a lot of different things that I won't bore you with a list. But in relationship to this exhibition and to this event, I'm a board member of the Griot Museum of Black History in St. Louis. And this past year, I was a fellow, a Loeb Fellow at Harvard University, and in the midst, got connected with one of their teams there, the Commonwealth Project, which was already creating a fellowship that centered Black artists and their voices, their experiences in St. Louis. And it was my fortune to get connected to help curate the six artists who have been a part of this fellowship, but also curate the digital exhibition in the city, Memories of Black Presence, that you can view online at the Griot Museum's new website, which is thegriotmuseum.com. And I can paste that in the chat in a bit. But I'm super, super pumped for tonight's conversation because it's featuring one of the artists that I feel like I've known the longest, Cami Thomas. We got connected through uh, totally different parts of our lives years ago, and it's been such an honor and a joy to watch Cami's journey, not only as a photographer but as a filmmaker, as a trendsetter, as a human, and she inspires me, and I hope that the work that she has on view has inspired you all, and I'm excited for all that she's going to share with us tonight through this conversation. With that being said, welcome, Cami.
Thank
Hello, friend.
Hello. Hey, it's good to see you. It's great to hear from you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, you all, Dee is a really special person to me, a very, very special person to the city of St. Louis. And I know to all of us fellows throughout this fellowship, every time we talk and meet up, we always talk about how much you've done for us. And yeah, you really led the way for this entire program. So I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, Kimmy, I know that you prepared a few thoughts, a few ideas of what you would like this conversation to be about. But before we jump into that, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about uh, some of the themes, some of the content of the work that you have in the exhibition via the Griot.
Definitely, I could do that. So, you know, the prompt for this fellowship and for the body of work, all of us photographers who were part of this program were asked, what does St. Louis mean to you, right? So it's vague, but it's also very hard hitting, especially for the particular artists that were chosen. So when I think about what St. Louis means to me, we could talk for the entire hour just about that, the good, the bad, the amazing, the layers and layers upon layers that this city opera kind of presents to us. But my goal with the pieces of work that I wanted to include were to include the softness of St. Louis, the the parts of St. Louis that make my heart open rather than the parts that make my heart close. I think as I became an artist, or kind of, we're all artists from birth, I think, personally, but as I moved more from the corporate world, from Tesla, from Red Bull, into the true artist world, living as an artist, I realized a lot of my art was based off of those hard parts of St. Louis, right? So healing from trauma, healing from trying to understand why the city was so segregated, trying to understand why I was experiencing as a Black person, as a Black woman, as a Black queer woman, the things I was experiencing in the city. And a lot of my art came from that place, which was really healing for that time that it was. But after a while, it's like you can't form a trauma bond with your work, right? So I say that to say, for this particular work of art, I didn't want to include anything harsh or scary. I wanted to include the joy, the softness, things that if you saw it, it might remind you of St. Louis, or you might even know where that photo was taken. But I didn't want anything about it to be inherently painful. I didn't want anything about it to be inherently triggering as I even created the art. Because I think art can dig into things, but it doesn't need to feel that way exactly. So that was the process that I entered, creating the project with. A few of the photos, a few of my favorites, we can kind of go over them. but that feature Mason, so the kiddo, the little boy. Those were filmed, or those were taken on the north side of St. Louis, right outside of my grandmother's house, so in Hyde Park. Anyone who's known me for long enough has probably been there at some point. Beautiful, beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood.
Amazing house.
Cool. She has a great house. She has a great house. So, but for me, I experienced that home and the love and my family. But Hyde Park on the north side is nothing to play with. Like that's the part of St. Louis that it is. When I stay there, I hear gunshots every night. So if you look, where the photo was taken. But the subject and actually what I'm focusing on is the softness. So I sort of wanted to meet that intersection a little bit as I work on these photos. But that was the process that I was working from as I moved forward with this.
Good stuff. And tell me, or share with everyone, when were these photos taken?
Oh boy, these were taken about a week before the world changed. This happened.
Whoa.
The photos, Nair, who's on the call, she took the behind the scenes photos. So we have a whole documentation of the process of taking a few of these photos. And we're all smiling, we're together, we have our arms over each other. And it's just, I see it now and I'm like, oh, I would never, there are no masks. We're just so light and free. We had no idea that a week from then, that would have been the last close interactions that I was going to have with people for 3 months. It was the last time I was going to be in a group that I was going to hug anyone, and at least probably closer to 4 or 5 months. So that's when they were taken. It's taken early March of 2020.
Wow. Yeah, I think, the timing of the photos, that is so poignant in itself amongst that theme of sharing the joy, the softness. In the midst of this past year, so many of us have been missing that. So many people have been in isolation. So many people have lost loved ones, and especially with the photos of Mason, there's that innocence, there's that sense of hope that, like, in some ways only children can, like, truly muster. And so, those works are so powerful, just visually, um, and you've been at this, with creating art, using photography, using film for a while now. Can you share a little bit more about what your journey has been in your transition from corporate America to doing, like, really in enveloping yourself in this work?
Totally. Yeah. So I like a lot of kids who went to business school, went straight into how can I build my career, go up the ladder, things of that nature. But doing that, I can never not be me. I can never not be Black, be queer, be a woman. So even as I'm going through these corporate spaces and doing pretty well in the corporate world, I'm experiencing things, I remember being on a Zoom call like in 2017, and there were protests for Jason Stockley like right outside my apartment, and I was trying to keep it together, and I was like, "Oh, these intersections sometimes they can be too much," and I do think you get to this point where you sort of need to make a choice within yourself. It doesn't even have to be an external choice, though it can turn into that. So for me, I was just going along that path, but my heart was calling out to being with my community, to contributing to my community, to communicating with my community, and the way that I liked to do that best was through the lens, through art. It made me feel safe. Even going out at protests and things like that, having a camera in front of me,
Yeah.
I it sort of felt like a shield a little bit. So it would keep me like, okay, that's what I'm doing. My purpose here is very clear. I look a little bit more unassuming maybe with the camera. In some cases that wasn't the case because, not necessarily friendly to journalists either, but so for me, that was sort of how I transitioned into that, is because I was like, I need to be amongst my people. I need to talk to my people. And I like doing it with the camera. So yeah, 2017, I created a series called Smoke City. So each episode explored a different part of St. Louis, explored the segregation throughout St. Louis, and kind of sought to address the questions that I was hearing a lot that used to confuse me, where different people from different parts of the city would say, everything in Ferguson, everything with Jason Stockley, what's happening? How did we get here? I don't understand. And they were very confused, and I was confused about their confusion. So that was sort of why I started that series, to say like, well, let's break down the city. Do you really understand North County? Do I really understand South County? Do we understand each other? Because if not, we're going to get to this point again, which we did with Jason Stockley, which we do every year. And then it all, I think, hit like a national head, obviously, last summer in June with George Floyd. So to answer your question, my journey has always been wanting to be amongst my community. I like to do that through a camera. And after a while, I got to saying, well, I like both, but I think I like this over here a little bit better. And I think I'm in my 20s, and I think I just want to create when I want to create and talk and have the conversations that I want to have right now. The corporate world will not go anywhere as far as I'm concerned. So, kind of how I fell into this.
Yeah, I'm learning right now with my new role that even when corporate America wants to do better, the process is so slow, it's so cumbersome, and there are so many gatekeepers in the way of the progress. And the beauty of artistry, especially as an independent artist, is that you call the shots. You get to make that call about how fast you move, what your subject matter is. But with Black artists in particular, so often people assume that you're only going to create content that is about Black pain or trauma or social justice issues. Uh, in your opinion, do you feel like there's an obligation there, um, or or to your point, do you just create what you want to create?
Right. Yeah, somewhere in the middle. I mean, I can be, they say you treat people how you treat yourself. I can be pretty hard on myself. So I think I am a little hard on, or I have high expectations of my own community too. So I do think if you're a Black artist and if you make music, if you create paintings, whatever you do, I do like to see our community represented. And I do think there's a slight obligation to, at the very least, not turn your head away from your community. You don't have to make everything about our community all the time, but I do think, sometimes I can notice if it seems like someone's running away from themselves. So as long as that's not the case, I think if you strike that balance, then yeah. So it's complex, I guess. I mean, obligated to not run away, sure. I think it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I with that question, I always think about like Nina Simone and her point that the role of the artist is to reflect the times, and sometimes reflecting the times is like being in the moment, in the highlight of the height of all of this, and sometimes reflecting the times is telling the other narrative of the ordinary life. Like I love Issa Rae as an example of like when she first started with Awkward Black Girl. It's like we weren't getting those images, but we know that there's more to being Black in a city or in America or in the world than the dominant narrative of trauma and pain and struggle. And so I think what's so beautiful about your work, and you mentioned like Naira as well, is like so many of the artists in St. Louis are balancing that in such poignant ways where it really is a broader picture of the culture, and just I have mad respect for that. I'm curious though, like you're young, you're mid 20s, late
I'm
20s,
I'm about to turn 28 in 2 weeks.
late 20s, late 20s.
Put some respect on my age. I'm 20
Yes.
almost.
Right. And this exhibition is with a Black History Museum. It is for a Black History Museum. It is about Black memory and presence. Um, how does that like relate to your practice? Do you find yourself looking back at different moments of history as inspiration, or is is your eyes like set on the presence or the future?
Yeah, I've been in all types of places. I think the way you create art maybe reflects where you are, right? So maybe all of us, but I've had, lower moments in my life emotionally. And I think sometimes when that's the moment are you're so stuck on the past, things that you couldn't change, things you wish you would have done better, done differently. And in those instances, I think I look to the past a lot on even nostalgic or like the way things used to be were better, they were worse in these ways. I think I found myself at different anxious periods of my life. And in those instances, I was looking way into the future. And that's what makes you anxious, right? Is like looking
Yeah.
into the future emotion. But lately, I feel really present. And I think because of that, my work is very present. I try not to overthink what exactly does this piece mean, but if it's like, we're in this moment together, we're sharing it, I'm going to capture it, I'm going to time capsule the present and the piece. That's kind of where I am. So I'm always looking back. I think even, again, like with running away, even if I wanted to run away from the context of Black history, we're still in it. We are that history. We are the result of that history. I have my parents and my grandparents. I have a great grandmother who's alive. Our history is all around us all the time. And so yeah, it's always present on my mind. But as far as when I'm creating the art, I try to be as present as possible. And my mom is waving. Hello, mom. Yes.
Oh,
You're not.
wait. Your mother's on the call?
Yeah, you see
Wait.
her.
I was in speaker mode, so I only see you. But hey, mom. Hello. I think I've met your mother before
Hi,
at the St. Louis Art
Hi.
Museum for Slam
mom.
Underground. Hello. So you know with these, I love engaging with people's parents. I think everyone has had a family member on the call. Uh, Miss Thomas,
Her dad is on the call too.
really?
Yeah. Anyway, hey guys.
Hello. Wait, at some point, Mom, stay on the call. I'm gonna ask you a question as well. Gotta. I did it with Colin. I think I did it with Naira. And Tiffany had her mom like literally in the camera on the shot with her. So we're gonna come back and ask you some questions, Miss Thomas. Um, but that's so beautiful. Like it's amazing how families show up for us, especially our artistry, because even within breaking stereotypical narratives or toxic narratives about being black and being an artist, so often we hear, oh, my parents didn't support my artistry, or I don't have the space to create. And I'm curious, like, what has that journey been like for you, especially coming from the context of St. Louis?
For me, as far as the support and encouragement from my family, from the city,
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very fortunate that, yeah, my parents, I think, really, they poured a lot of love into my sister and I. They poured a lot of time into my sister and I. Yeah, my mom is a lot of things, but yeah, is a therapist, is a counselor. My dad is a coach. So I think the mixture of those two things meant that they were always encouraging us, always pouring into us. So even when I was leaving Red Bull and I made that, I remember I called my dad as soon as I left, as soon as I found out pretty much that people were getting laid off. And then they offered me another role, a good one too. But I was like, something about me kind of feels like I've been wanting to maybe go, and now here's this shift that's showing me maybe I should just jump. Do you think so? And there was never like, no, keep your job, do this. Like, you're getting paid a lot, go up the ladder, leave later, do your art when you're, already a trillionaire, whatever these arbitrary KPIs that people hold themselves by. I didn't get that from my family. I only got encouragement. I got offers of helping if I needed help and things like that. And yeah, it worked out. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. And I think St. Louis has a very tight knit, just even going beyond my parents, because my parents are my family, my sister's my family. But my friends are my family too. And they've had a very, very huge, huge role in my life of accepting me in every aspect of who I am and encouraging me in my art. And I think St. Louis has a super tight knit creative community, unlike any that I've really seen. So yeah, I've been fortunate with a good community for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know recently you started a new, is it a collective? Like my friends and I made this for you.
Yeah.
Could
I
you talk a
so
little bit
I
about that?
Yeah, definitely. When I started blogging and I started making the documentary series, all of that was under FTC TV, so for the culture was what I called it at the time. And I think I just sort of grew out of the name is really what it was. I grew out of love with it, I think. it wasn't growing. Nice, thank you, Nara. It wasn't growing with me as much. And I was like, what? Because the place I was creating from with that was a place of pain. It was a place of healing. It was a place of like, crying out, being at protest. That was the place I was in. And nowadays, I'm just in this place of like, I want to make cool stuff with my community. I want to make fun stuff. I want to get together and breathe life and creativity into each other. And I wanted a new name to house that. And under that name, it just means whenever you see that tag, it just means that anything I've made under that name needs to have the involvement of at least me and a few other people. I don't want anything just to be me, just me doing things on my own, whether it's the sound or so funny. I say sound and then Mohammed is logging in. He does a lot of the sound engineering. Whether it's the sound, whether it's anything else, making sure that I'm being collaborative. So that's kind of why I made that shift. And
Yeah.
yeah, why it's important to me.
That's beautiful. I mean, I think it's powerful to work in collectives because you can go far alone, but you can do even more powerful work with others, and sometimes scale and amplify the work better by being a part of a collective, or at least just sharing skills and processes collaboratively. And it's beautiful to watch how you and your whole crew does that. Uh, but I'm also like just proud of St. Louis as being a birthplace for that type of energy, because there are so many groups that are making powerful work right now. One of the things, with that though, is like social media. And y'all are all popping on these platforms, especially Instagram. How do you perceive that like affecting and influencing how you create and what you create?
I try not to let it influence it too much. I saw what I think was just a tweet, but it looked like a poem because of the way that it hit me. Was just that like I don't want to create art for an algorithm, and I was thinking that's exactly right. I don't necessarily want to create something thinking this will make a nice reel or this will make a nice thing that lives here on this place temporarily. It's like I want to make something that, regardless of where it lived, would be art, would make, I'd be proud of it. It would, reflect what I want to make. And then I'll go ahead and optimize it in a way of, I'll export it so that it shows up clearly on Instagram. I'm not just going to throw anything on there, but I want to create like for creation's sake is kind of the phrase and mantra I've been creating under. Create it for the sake of creating it, and then after that, sure, I'll put some thought into the caption, put some thought into sharing it and making sure the measurements are right and things like that. But I try not to make it, I try not to let it have any place, social media have any place in the inception of an idea nor the execution of it. Just to kind of keep me sane. I don't want to, because, Instagram is always changing the algorithm, and you get shadow banned, and it's like if you tie too much to that, like it'll affect your heart, like it'll make you feel, have abandonment issues, or you know what I mean, like if you get too tied to it. So to answer your question, it's been a great place for getting work and getting people to know, like, oh, like, when people's like, oh, you're really out here, I see you out here doing your thing, and it's like they've just seen you post a few things, so it's good for that reason. And sharing art. But I do think, especially as the world opens back up, I'm excited to be back in person. I'm excited to be back in galleries, walking around, looking at paintings and seeing, I really miss that kind of thing. But social media has been good, this year because we couldn't do that. So, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I feel that a lot. I feel actually, I was talking about this earlier this week at work, because I'm based at YouTube, and I used to be a YouTuber, a content creator, and I just stopped because the anxiety of trying to create content for the clicks and for the likes, and for the money. Like, you can monetize on these platforms now, and that, from an artist perspective, can get so draining to where you kind of lose the soul of your work. um and it just takes your mind into these other places, and it's a powerful reminder to hear you say, yeah, just make the art, and then think about that stuff. Should it be relevant to what you're producing? But you hit on Another point that shows up in this work, if people scroll on the site on Cami's page, you'll see a few photos that are not from St. Louis. They're from France, I believe.
Yeah.
And so you travel a bit with your works. Could you talk a little bit about the French work, the Miami, Mexico, like how traveling and taking that global perspective influences your process?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. Me and my girlfriend got into a super duper deep discussion yesterday about travel and what it even means to me. I love to travel. I don't like to just go to places and take a picture, which that's fine too, or as in like a picture of myself. Although I do that too. But I really like to feel connected with different people. I like to get outside of my own box and my own lens. And I think part of the phrase of like the Black experience, what is the Black experience, something that's always bothered me about that a little bit is that I'm like, we all have different experiences. We're not a monolith. There's a ton of Black people on this call. All of us have different experiences. We have some overlaps and there are some parallels, but we're all very different people, very different families, grew up on very different streets, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel that most, and that reality hits me most when I travel and when I leave. And I think it's something I need for my own sanity. There are times where, yeah, I don't know. I think the weight of 2014 through now, but through 2020, the protests of the constant videos of police killings of every day, every week, every month, it felt like there was more and then more and then more. It was bad for my soul, for my spirit. And like when I would leave and remember, like there are places that I feel a little safer. There are places that this isn't the reality. If I didn't have that, I really don't know how I would have like kept my spirit and creativity alive. I remember even like I spent December in Brazil with my girlfriend and her family. And the day I landed, I landed on January 6th, if you know where this is going. I landed the night of January 6th. I had no idea what anything was happening. I checked my phone. I get floods of just overwhelmed with information. The Capitol's been breached. The Capitol's been breached. White supremacists here, and just like all of a sudden, I remember being on the like I had to use all of my energy not to start crying because it was like, what am I doing here? Like I was just somewhere else on a farm overlooking a hill. What am I doing here? And I say that not to be sad or anything like that, but just saying like to leave and not feel that even for 3 weeks is good for my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and if it's good for your soul, it's good for your art. So that's why I like to travel. That's where that kind of comes in. And yeah, it's just kind of fun being lost somewhere. The Paris, that was fun, but that was terrifying because that is not like a walk around. Where I was is not a walk around with your expensive camera kind of
Oh,
area. That was so it was. I was trying to like take the photo, then put it in my jacket pocket, but yeah, that's kind of how travel intertwines with the work itself.
good stuff. I know that I can ask you questions about your work, your process, and stuff for days, but I want to open this conversation to include a few more folks, especially some of the folks that you've mentioned throughout your remarks. Uh, if it's all right, Miss Thomas, I would love to start with you, just to say hello. Um, would you be willing to unmute yourself and join this conversation? And then for everyone else, if you all have questions for Cami, definitely feel free to leave them in the chat, like paste them in the chat. And as we come up on each question, we'll welcome you to unmute yourself to join in this conversation as well. But Miss Thomas, hello.
Hey, mom.
Hi. Hi. I thank everybody. I'm just in awe of all of the work of all of the fellows. And in reference to Câmara Ashanti Thomas, her name means teacher of knowledge. It's in Kiswahili. And so she comes from a legacy of teachers, and she does that throughout her journey in life, through her art, of her photography, of her filming, of her writing. and just in her existence. And we know that it takes a village. Her father's on the line too. One of her former teachers, Mr. Aliski's on the line, and some of her friends she grew up with and friends that are on her journey now. And just to say that she has a light. She has a light and a message, and that we're so proud of her of sharing that light. Her father and I try to provide a space, a safety space where she will feel comfortable and developing and formulating who she is supposed to be on earth. And so I guess with any parents, our biggest thing is that we want our children to be productive citizens, one that would continue the light and the journey of our ancestors. And she has done that. And so we are so very proud of her. And just to know that, you know, just like that elk tree, that she may sway left and right, but her roots are stemmed in spirituality and family and community and the commitment to make this world a better place.
Wow. Wow. I mean, wow. What a blessing. Thank you so much, Miss Thomas. I hope everyone on this call felt the love and the energy, the support, the radical support, in how you speak about your daughter. Is beautiful. Um, yeah, I see the hearts in the chat, Colin. Man, this I'm a like a mama's girl as well. And yeah, it's one thing to be validated by the world and the external stuff, but when your parents are proud of you, genuinely proud of how you're showing up in this world, it means so much more. I often say, like, I have this book coming out in the fall, and I showed it to my mom, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good!" And it's like that's all I need. Like if mom was proud, I don't care what the rest of the world says. And Miss Thomas, the way that you just spoke about Cami's journey in life and the name. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mom. I'll call you.
Love you.
I love you too.
So Cami,
Everybody's on. Sorry, go ahead, Dee.
oh no, about to make me cry, yo. Um,
Yeah, I ain't doing this. We gotta move on.
right. Uh, the next question is from one of our good friends, Al. Al, would you want to unmute yourself to answer to ask your question, or would you like for me to read it out?
You know, I don't mind being loud.
Nope.
And thank you, y'all, for doing this. This is so lovely seeing you two. It feels like a conversation between two old friends, and so I feel blessed just to be able to see this. So, Cami, my question is, you know, I've gotten to see you grow over the years, and I just love seeing you develop. What would you say has opened the door to kind of give you permission to be your truest self? Because I've seen your artwork develop over the years, and I could say that there's definitely been a growth pattern, and there's more of you in yourself now than I feel like there ever has been. So what would you say has kind of opened that door to lend weight to that?
Why do y'all keep saying stuff that's gonna make me cry? No, I thank you, Al. We met right when I started even really taking camera stuff seriously at all. So yeah, I'm really happy that you're still in my life, and you know that we've been able to see each other's growth. What's opened the door? A lot of things, but I would say honestly, like even with the name My Friends and I, which we were talking about earlier, Dee, like really my community and my friends have made me feel safe enough to be myself, safe enough to open up emotionally, to talk about things that I fear, that I dream of, that I love, that annoy me, like all these layers. I feel like, you know, being able to feel like I have a place to communicate those things and be my truest self, really, I think my friends offered. And I mean, the people on this call, yeah, literally like Muhammad, Alexi, like Naira, Al, you, Dee, Denise, especially, Eddie, as I've met him a little bit more recently, but are all people who, surround me in love every single day, and specifically around creativity and around like, go ahead, drop that, like, go ahead, film that this way, like, do what you got to do. This is a good idea. Like, have really helped me kind of nudge me towards being able to be more experimental, have nudged me towards getting more in touch with myself, my own soul, my own spirit, my own heart. And because of that, my own art, because that's where art blossoms and blooms from. And yeah, that combination has kind of put air or put wind under my wings or under my sail, whatever the expression is. So yeah, what has opened the door is you guys.
Good stuff. If anyone else has a question, please feel free to leave it in the chat. But while we're fielding a few more questions, I'm curious about, how creation for you will transition or, just morph or blossom as we start reopening life and travel. I don't want to ask, well, I do want to ask, I am curious. Like, what are some of the things that you're working on right now or things that you have in the pipeline?
Yeah, totally. So like I said, I want not just to be in galleries for the prestige of it, but I want to go talk to people and see people and maybe hug people one day. I don't know, if I don't know, hugs seem so foreign now, but if that's able to happen, I want that. So the work that I do have, I'd like to, as soon as I was kind of getting to my artistry in like a gallery type setting, the world closed down. So yeah, I would like to potentially, have exhibitions in person. I would like, I'm looking into artist residencies around the world. I've been eyeing Berlin a lot because I really, really enjoy Berlin. I went there a few times for work. I went to Hawaii with a pretty cool group of folks. Yeah, just last week. I just got back less than a week ago. And I interviewed and did a photo / sort of video, excuse me, project with a farmer who was there. And that got me thinking about how farming and how food and access to food and lack thereof is really like those are means for liberation too, like a liberation of people through food, especially in Hawaii. It's a different experience, but for a lot of folks there, they consider themselves to be occupied by the U.S. military. And I know I know we've been in different situations where we've literally been bottlenecked and trapped by the police or by the National Guard. And that feeling of feeling occupied, or that you can't get to fresh air because there's tear gas, or that you can't get to safety. Those are things that, like, when you've experienced it, it's hard to get off of you're not driven by it, but it's hard to get like off of your being. So talking to him in Hawaii really opened the door to like, okay, what are different means of liberation? But him around farming, it did make me want to talk to farmers around the world. I've been looking into, Palestine. There's some farmers out there who are doing some really great work. So it's going to take a while to make sure I can kind of get the clearances to do that. But ideally, I'd like to release a series that kind of explores that around food around the world and how those are means for liberation. So that will completely depend on, obviously the way the world looks as far as if it's a good idea for me to go into different communities right now, obviously for their safety and for mine. But those are the things that I'm eyeing for the near future.
Good stuff. Nayera has a question for you. Nayera, if you would like to unmute, please feel welcomed. But I could also read your question if desired.
No, I'm mute.
She's gonna force me to talk. It's okay. Hello, friends. Yeah. So my question, pretty much, I was taking a look at the link that you dropped in just to review the images again. And yeah, in the beginning, you talked about your selection process with the photos and traveling, but there is a photo of you in there that's a self-portrait. So just curious to hear like what your selection process for including your self-portrait was with the other images.
Girl, I look good in that picture. That's not the reason. That's not the only reason that I chose that picture. It's kind of what you all have been getting at, and kind of the way Al said it, because she speaks so poetically. I'm gonna answer almost in that way. Like, yeah, that image I took on the rooftop of my grandmother's house on the north side at golden hour. And in that moment, I felt like I was coming into my true self. It was during quarantine. So I'd only seen my grandma and grandpa. Like I'd say we did pretty well. We were in the house for a couple months and we didn't really, butt heads that much to say that we were there together. But I went up to the roof and I took those photos and I felt so just at peace. Like I just saw the north side. There was so much uncertainty in the air, but like within myself, I felt very just at my equilibrium. And I wanted to document that. I wanted to document the fact that I felt that way because I thought it was beautiful to feel that free within my own spirit, I guess. So the reason I wanted to include it in there, one is for the consistency with that photo and the one that I took with Trey, with both of us in do-rags. And I think his image was a little bit softer and the expression and kind of the lighting was a little bit more, I don't want to say harsher, but I think I'll use that word. I'll say a little stronger. It kind of cut through a little bit more. Was sort of my purpose. But yeah, I wanted to throw it in there, especially considering, I mean, the process even of this fellowship. I know I think initially it was only going to be about a semester and then, got pushed back. So technically we're coming on a year and a half.
Yeah.
Not as a group. And then again, D, because of you and, everyone involved, but a lot of your power is the reason we're here having this talk a year and a half later. So even to kind of be at that finish line where we started to submit work, it's like, this is the person I was at the beginning of that. And then to kind of be able to talk to that now, a year and a half later, feels good too. So hopefully I answered that question. I think I maybe gave you 3 answers, but there were a lot of reasons. But yeah, I just felt like it belonged.
Yeah. Yeah, self-portraiture is a thread throughout how you show up. And my goodness, the portraits that you and your partner take are heavenly. And there's power to that, I once heard an artist say that, this is a record of me existing in this world. Uh, and being in a space. Like, do you vibe with that, or are there other values or elements that come into the sense of portraiture for you?
Yeah, Al said I love that. I love that too. Yeah, I don't know. I really like seeing pictures of my mom when she was my age, and yeah, I've seen a lot of pictures of my grandma. I don't know if it was when she was my age, but just when they were younger, and it's kind of cool to see myself in them, and it's just kind of cool. So I want to give my future daughter that opportunity for one. So I do think that's part of that is recording yourself, and yeah, as people, but specifically as Black people, literally, exactly. You're reading my mind, like. I think we deserve and should be seen and recorded in ways where we are just existing, we're resting. So much, so much photography or images of Black people, especially as they have existed in this country throughout the decades, or have been in some form or another of, pain or work or labor. So to take a picture on a rooftop with the sun shining down and a gold do-rag just feels free. And the whole saying, like, I am my ancestors' wildest dream, that's often tied to if you're a surgeon or if you are a pilot or if you're president. And I don't know if my ancestors dreamed of labor necessarily. I don't know if their wildest dream for me to work, for me to be successful, sure, but I bet their wildest dream was for me to rest, for me to soak in the sun, for me to have a good drink and a good laugh and a good hug with my people and not be constantly worried about anything all the time. And I think as each generation has gone by, we've gotten closer and closer and closer to reality like that. My kids, I hope, are taking self-portraits of them and they barely know labor at all, or they don't even know what it means to know the type of pain of what we know. So anyway, not to go off on a tangent about it, but I think it's good for us to record ourselves as we are and as we exist. Once we are gone, those photos will still exist in some form or fashion, and they will tell the story of what the Black existence was at this time in this moment. And who better to tell that than the people at this time in this moment, which, that's us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah, there's power in that. I love what you said about I don't dream of labor. that's not in my dreams. I dream of love a lot, but not labor. In that sense of controlling the narrative, and how we have the tools. Who's that artist from This Is America? Danny Glover, or no, whatever. Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino. His name was Danny, not Glover. That's another person.
That's an actor.
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. You know, in that song, he was like, you know, this is a celly, meaning the cell phone, but this is also a tool, and we have the tools. Almost everyone in our generation have a cell phone to be able to capture moments, capture stories, tell stories, create and craft new narratives of who we are, and it's beautiful to see that show up. And so, you know, even if it's not portraiture, I think even marking time, marking an action, marking a space is powerful to that narrative. Yeah, I know that we're getting close to time, so I want to welcome anyone else who would like to chime in, show some love to Cami, ask a question, to do so now before we wrap up. And you don't have to type it in the chat. Just unmute, speak your truth.
Speak your truth. Put them in the hot seat.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Don't be shy, and then hit me up later with a question, y'all. We got to do it right now.
Right. It's the only chance, the only time you can do it.
Dee, where are you right now? Are you in thank you for that. Henna's
right.
Here.
I was gonna ask I don't know your work super well, and I joined a little late, but thank you, Dee, for all of this, everything you've done to make this possible, happen, all that. Thank you to mom, grandma, everybody here. Show love. That's so important. Hi, Cami, how you doing? What's up, Jay Marie? Nice to reconnect, meet you, whatever, however we will call it. When the internet is how we pretend like we know each other. You know what I'm saying? Know people.
Right.
And you might have spoken to this, but I've heard it weave through some of the answers I have heard. But I'm curious, like, how your queerness, or you feel like in the city, specifically in this city of all the cities, you know what I'm saying? I don't think you've lived anywhere else to say. I'm not sure. You said you traveled.
I didn't get that.
Wow, Siri, disrespectful.
Hey, Siri.
That's trippy. Okay, so what I was saying was, if there's a way that you feel like your queerness, either it's like you have like a commitment to it in terms of like your sexuality and your own kind of like flavor that you bring to your art, or in any particular way, like if the city, or how, you know what I'm saying, like you spoke about that trauma that a lot of us have, you know, experienced, like just how you feel like your queerness fits into that, or your Blackness, and just how those pieces, if they just come together to make a whole, or you feel like you have to kind of carve extra space out, like how does that come up for you?
That's a good question. And it's good to re-meet, meet you, see you, all of that. I lived in New Orleans for 4 years, and I lived in Chicago, and I'm physically in Chicago right now, but I'll be back in St. Louis tomorrow. Yeah, it's tough. So intersectionality, that word, I almost like never want to see it again because everyone uses it, but it's true, right? Like woman, I am equally as a woman, as I am Black, as I am queer, like those things exist in one. I will say the way I've experienced life in St. Louis, though, me being Black, for me, has been the thing that has offered me the most, I don't want to take a tally mark of when I felt most threatened, because as a woman, there's ways that I have that have nothing as much to do with me being Black or queer, just thinking about being queer. But I do think when I'm driving around, like my Blackness is more clear than anything else. I mean, as I've expressed myself through clothing and through, you know, walking with my girlfriend, that can offer differences too. It sort of depends. So my experience is not what every single Black queer woman or femmes like experiences, but personally for me, when I've been in St. Louis, my Blackness makes me feel like I've got a target here and here and here and here and everywhere. My experience in St. Louis in the Black church, though, has been different, right? So that's when I'm in a microcosm where I'm like, oh, I don't want to be here at all. Like when I was a kid, it's like really, it felt like I remember feeling like people don't like me. What is it that they're seeing in me that I don't even know about myself, that clearly they're projecting onto me? I don't know, you know, you're the little tomboy, you don't even know what sexuality is. Yeah, you're a little kid, but it's like clearly these adults are picking up on something, that they're throwing stuff at me. And that I can barely hear gospel music now without having a reaction. Like that is the effect that had on me, and that is real, and it's what I carry with me still. So I say that to say all of that is who I am, so it all shows up in my work. But if I want to, there are times that I've chosen to be more intentional about what I'm talking about. So if I'm like, no, y'all need to like, even the portraits that me and my girlfriend take, we just like taking pictures for one, but I'm gonna post it because it's like some people follow me because they're like, I love what you say about race, and I love what you say about Blackness. I'm like, well, you're gonna come to my page and see that I got a girlfriend too. So I hope that's fine with you, because if not, you don't have to engage with my art. It won't bother me if you don't. You know, there's other artists you can engage with, other art patrons that I can engage with. It all works out. So it'll always show up. It'll never be something that's hidden. But I'm gonna make what I make as I feel like it. I never want to neglect a part of myself. So if I get to a point where I'm like, I haven't talked about queerness in a while, or I haven't really I've been leaning so far into my womanness that I haven't really leaned into like talking about Black stuff, which I don't think that's ever gonna happen, not in St. Louis. But hopefully I'm answering the question. But all of me and all that I am shows up in everything that I do. If I want to talk about a particular part of who I am, then yes, I have to make an effort to be more intentional. And I've noticed that talking about the Black experience in St. Louis has come a little bit more naturally or more presently, I suppose. And we can offline about it, just because I know we've got 7 minutes left. But that's kind of my answer with a little ribbon on top of it.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for that question, J. Marie. And I mean, also good to see you, even in this virtual world. Um, so our time is wrapping up. But before I close this out, I want to circle back to the prompt that all 6 fellows were given by the students at Harvard. What is St. Louis to you? What is that for you?
It's like my greatest love, but the type of love in a movie where you're fighting sometimes and you throw plates at the wall, or you throw the clothes out. You know, not like I'm never like that in a relationship, obviously. But I mean, that type of dramatic love where it's like the ups and downs and the lows and highs is what St. Louis is. Because I'm like, I love that place to death. I love every inch and every brick and every cement strip on the sidewalk. Every blade of grass. Like, I love St. Louis with all of my heart. But St. Louis has also almost and has broken me at so many different points. St. Louis has almost killed me at points in my life. I've been held at gunpoint, been tear gas, and those are not normal things. Like, it's, you know, that those are not things that you just brush off. You know, so it's like, it's something that's left scars, but it's also, yeah, left a lot of beauty too. So St. Louis to me, yeah, is my greatest love. And yeah, my greatest pain too, I guess, but there's no place like it. And I guess everybody on this call pretty much has a connection to St. Louis in some way or another. So yeah, you all know what I'm talking about, but that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I feel that. We can offline about that too. My gosh. Thank you so much, Cami. This has been such a joy to like just reconnect. We haven't chatted since before the pandemic, I believe. No, it was in the middle of the pandemic because we were on a patio somewhere. But it's always a joy to connect with you because, like your mother said, you are such a teacher. Your light shines so brightly, and I'm sure so many of us on this call have felt that glow. And so, thank you for your work, but thank you for you. Thank you for being. Um, I'm I want to encourage everyone to not only go to the Griot Museum's new website, brand new, spanking new, designed by WashU students, and check out the work. Don't just check out Cami's work. There are 6 artists in this exhibition. Check out all of them because it is some beautiful, poignant, and powerful stuff. And I encourage you to also show your support and your love to the Griot and to other Black cultural institutions in the city. In as much as this exhibition is about the individual artists, it is also about us coming together to amplify and support this cultural institution. So please, 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 if you can, make a donation. If you are able, go and visit, buy your tickets. But support Black institutions in the city because we have to keep them alive, gotta keep them sustained. And so with that, thank you again, everybody, for joining in for tonight. The video for this will post online. And so if there are some highlights that you want to run back and get an encore for, definitely feel free to check it out, but also share it with others. Good night.
Good night. Thank you all, everyone, so much for showing up.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.